God.
Mission sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
It's astonishing.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
Three, 2, 1, action.
Hello everyone, welcome to ProAV. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got an exciting one today. This is a big big launch for Canon. The new R1, the new R5 Mark II, and I'm joined by Barry Griffin to tell us all about them. How are you, Barry?
I am very well. Really excited to be back. It's been a while since we've done a face-to-face, so really looking forward to being able to walk through the products with you.
It's been a really long time
It's
since
been a
we've
really
done
long
face-to-face,
time. I know
actually.
we've talked about it, yes. But I think most people who have ever done this know me as the guy in the background who's on the chat most of the time. So you've got me face-to-face for once.
Exactly. But we are joined. It's a bit of a role reversal now. We're joined by Media in the chat instead of Barry. Normally, if you're confused what we're talking about, Barry normally joins on every Canon live stream that we do. He will join from home into the chat to answer people's questions in there if we can't keep up with them during the stream while we're talking to Tom or we're talking to Media. And we now have you in person. We have Media in the chat. So thank you, Media, for your time. And of course, thank you for coming down to see us.
Pleasure.
This is a big one for you guys, right?
It's a very big one. Probably we've had some great announcements already this year, but this one was the one that I think most people were anticipating and expecting and wanting to see. Of course, the EOS cameras, legendary by name, legendary by nature, what they've been doing over the last few years. So people wanted to see what we were going to do. The R1 especially, people have known about it. We did the kind of technology launch announcement a while back ago, so people wanted to see what it was. And of course, the R5 series, the 5 series in general, the most popular series probably that we've ever had. So now we have the next generation, the next chapter in that.
Well, I think that's the right way to think about them, isn't it? I mean, we were just chatting before the stream started about how this feels like, how many years has it been now, EOS R, since the EOS R was
2018,
launched?
so 6 years.
6 years.
6 years the R system's been around.
The first launch, which was the EOS R just by itself with a few lenses. Then we had the R5 and the R6, which felt like the next big sort of pivotal moment.
Exactly.
And of course, we've had lots of cameras in between those, but this feels like the next pivotal change.
That's the best way of looking at it. So when you're talking about the technologies and the features in it, you're talking about what Canon have done, especially with the sensor technology and the features and the functions and the algorithms and all the things that have been added to it are just growing and growing and growing.
Absolutely.
So this is quite exciting, actually, where we're going with these cameras right now.
Absolutely. Cool.
I have some slides. Don't I?
Dive straight in.
I don't like boring people with slides, but these are good just to give people an idea of what's on there.
To be honest, I want to see them because for people at home that might not know, this is the first time I've touched the cameras because the launch video was kindly done by my colleague Liam instead of me. I had to be elsewhere for family reasons, unfortunately. But this is the first time I'm holding these.
Holding one, yeah, exactly.
I want to see the slides and I want to have a play as well.
It's always the big thing. People like getting the cameras in their hands. It's always the most exciting moment when somebody picks up that product and has a look through the viewfinder and seeing what's going on. So let's crack on with this anyway, just to get some things.
Yeah, the questions are coming in. Keep the questions coming in, by the way, people watching this live. I'm going to drop them into the conversation as we go. But let's start.
Let's crack on. So, of course, we're just going to give an overview of the EOS R system. As we've already said, it's been 6 years now since 2018. Where are Canon now? Like, the image looks fantastic. A lot of cameras there with the RF mount, a lot of RF glass. When you think about what Canon have done over the last 6 years with 15 bodies, 51 lenses, that's the big thing, people wanting to see the lenses. Not only the number of the lenses, but some of the lenses that we've been able to make with the RF mount have been really, really exciting. And of course, Canon being conscious of its customer base and the people who use our system, we've made our own mounts because there's a lot of EF glass out there, and having 4 mounts, different mounts that do slightly different things depending on the functions that people need, we have that there as well. So it's great to see this evolve, and as we've said before, this is just going to grow, enhance and improve over the next generation.
Absolutely.
Shooters,
which we are already in the middle of seeing, both on the lenses and obviously we're talking about cameras today, but the lenses particularly recently have been very exciting with the 24-105 for video, f2.8, not just for video, for stills.
No, most definitely. Like the 28-70 is still one of the lenses I love showing off to people. The dual fisheye lenses that we brought out just to show you the RF has opened up this being so creative and on technology side to do it, and of course having the camera system to be able to push that as well, where the EOS R system's going. So of course we are introducing new cameras. We've already said them, but they have a very flashy slide here. Really nice. They say, guess what's coming, everybody? But we now have the R5 Mark II and the R1. A really exciting time. So Carl's got them in his hands there, just to give a look and feel and give an idea of size. But we'll go through some of the things that we actually have here. I put this slide up here just to kind of put it down towards the genres, because, of course, when people are looking at these cameras, they're saying, who's it for? Who can use it? What kind of person would be using this camera? Of course, because they're EOS cameras, we talk about them in the photography first, so they are photography first cameras. But as we've known and we've seen going forward, the videography functionality, the video functionality is just improved and improved. But looking at this, creative storytellers, professional and enthusiasts on the R5 Mark II, so a lot of R5 users that are out there. So it doesn't matter if you're studio photography, street photography, even going into some sports and wildlife, you can do that. But the R series and the R1 series especially is the professional camera. So this is targeted towards the press photographers, the sports agencies, all those places out there where the image, not only capturing the image is key and making sure the shot is in focus and done, it's getting that shot delivered to the agency, delivered to the online content straight away. It's all about speed from capture to delivery. So that's what they need and want in the R1 series. So breaking it down a bit, going through it. So we're going to talk about the functions in both cameras, because there's a lot of features in here that you'll cross over from the R1 and the R5 Mark II, of course. So going into this, we'll bring this up. These are just some headline things. The key thing, again, accelerated capture. So looking at it with faster autofocus, what that means is the autofocus being able to change and be very precise in capturing the target. Accurate focus representation as well, reduced rolling shutter, which is a big thing for a lot of people. And I'll be talking about the sensor a bit when we talk about the rolling shutter. Precise tracking through obstacles, again, where these cameras are actually used. If you're talking about from motorsports to field sports and all the rest, there's so much going on. Canon have been thinking about that and how to enhance and improve that in the photography world, and increase frame rates, of course. That's a big thing. People want to know that they're getting as many shots as possible to pick out that perfect shot.
Absolutely.
And that's what you're going to find with this. So we have autofocus, multiple advancements within autofocus. We'll go into that a little bit more. Image quality. So a lot of people have already asked, oh, the megapixels seem the same, Barry. You know, 24.2 in the R1, 45 in the R5 II. But these are totally brand new back illuminated stack sensors. So while the megapixels are the same, you're going to notice a huge shift, and we'll go into that a bit, in what the sensors will deliver.
Which I think, because there's so much to talk about in these cameras, has been something that's been overlooked a little bit by quite a lot of people here. I mean, these aren't early, these are still early cameras, so it's hard to judge image quality, but it looks like the image quality for both stills and video, crucially, for both stills and video, should be a significant leap above previous R5, but even things like the R3.
No, most definitely, you're going to notice a lot of things. Now, we'll make some comparisons with some technologies that you don't kind of shout about too much that enhance those things. But I suppose the best way of saying this is the sensors we put in here, these newly designed sensors, are probably the most rounded sensors that we were talking about earlier on. I said I feel these are the most rounded sensors that Canon have made. So they're not kind of specialists in one area, and because they're kind of focused on doing a particular thing, that the other sideline things like even readout speed could drop off a bit. This is finding the sweet spot in every aspect of the sensor, which is important, because you want to, these cameras are used in so many genres and so many areas. You want to be able to make sure you're getting the best from everything. So from accelerated capture, which we'll go into a bit, and the deep learning technology. Now, when we talk about deep learning, it's not AI. So it's algorithms that Canon have put into the camera from a system in Japan, basically. They load up this system with different algorithms, understanding faces and shapes and so on and so forth. And they continuously add this into this deep learning system. And with firmware updates and all the rest, this is brand new, so it's got the most stacked in there. You're actually getting the best functionality out of what the camera can actually do.
Very, very interesting.
It is. So going into it, what do we have? On focus, we've got action priority. So what that means is if you're shooting something, actually I have a little video clip. I sometimes jump ahead of myself. We'll go into that. But action priority, registered people, you can actually register a particular face or people in there. So for football matches, if you're wanting to focus on the key star on the pitch, you can put them into your camera and it will keep focus on them, and anybody else passes in front of them, it'll actually stick on the right person.
And I saw a bit of confusion as well, because that feels like a very R1, R3 kind of feature, but it is in the R5 Mark II.
It's in the R5 Mark II. This is all crossover, so they put that in there. Eye control AF, which we'll go into as well, which has been enhanced and been improved from what's been found on the R3 so far, and combined servo AF cases. So the cases that we've had in our cameras before, people have seen them in the R system before, especially in the 5 series and the 3 series we've had. This has been improved and enhanced as well. So just to give an idea, action priority, this is kind of one I'm kind of showing off at the moment. You can see it's been targeted towards soccer, basketball and volleyball, and that's down to it's a round ball. So these are sports that you'll find round balls being put into. It identifies the action unique to sports events, high-speed detection, so it's nearly thinking ahead of the game. Where's the ball going? So when somebody comes to the ball, that's the shot you're going to get. You can see it speeds up to 60 frames per second in the AF detection. So it's actually really pushing the speed of getting AF on it. Automatically determines the main subject and action poses. And of course, at the moment, we have it for football, basketball and volleyball. I'm sure over time, as this enhances and improves, you'll find other sports being put in there. But it's kind of round ball at the moment. So there's a little video clip, just runs for a couple of seconds, just to give an example of that. So all that action went on really quick, but there was the shot. The camera was, in a sense, looking at where the ball was going to be, and then, of course, the player came in to head the ball. You didn't know who was going to go for it. That's where the camera focused. So it's nearly determining who's going to go in there. So a real push for those sports photographers to make sure that they're getting every hit, every shot in focus, and the most exciting shots, because that's what they sell. That's what they like seeing, is the most exciting shot that happened at a game. Now, of course, just going into improved eye control AF. If you turn it around, show everybody the size of the viewfinder. It's huge. The R3 was big, but this is actually bigger. So you can see it really covers over the eye. They have improved this where the detection frame rate is now 2 times over what the R3 was. And I think you had a little play earlier on just setting it up. And I think you noticed a little improvement as in with the IF going around.
You hold this up to your eye, it does feel much less sort of slight jitters in it. You know, and I certainly, it felt like, I always liked it on the R3, but it does feel slightly more reliable here. And I was certainly able to move that small focus point around way quicker and more accurately than I could with a joystick. And then if it did get it slightly wrong, you can still use the joystick to correct where it had gone, which, because it only got it slightly wrong occasionally, that was super quick to do.
No, most definitely.
It's a really cool technology. If people haven't tried this in person, I really recommend trying it, because you've got to try it.
You do have to try
to
it.
Understand.
That's the thing. Like when the R3 came out, people the key thing that happened with the R3 is that you'd have some people do the registration. So if you had glasses on, glasses off, inside, outside, and so on and so forth. And with the initial technology, because it comes from the Canon medical side, believe it or not, it's actually the technology is coming from the Canon medical division, and they've moved it over to this side. The way it actually reads the eye. The first one, depending on your eye, some people it worked like a treat. So some people said, yeah, it works great, I've set myself up. And then you had some people says it's just not reading my eye well. This one now literally will read everybody's eye. So they've improved down to, because it's colour of eye, type of eye, pupil size, all these things come into consideration when this is going on. So of course they've improved that. And just to give a little quick example, which is always good, just a little motorbike, because I can see it being used in this kind of area, just straight away it will go right across.
It's a very good example.
So it's a very good little camera. You just change it and
how difficult would that be to change the tracking? You couldn't do it that quickly any other way.
Exactly. So this function you will see being used more and more, I guarantee, over time by certain photographers in certain genres. It's not going to say it's designed for every genre. And then, of course, registered people priority. This is where you can load up a face into the camera. And of course, with the deep learning, it will recognize the subject, that person. So for press photographers, especially when they're doing anything with politicians, you want the Prime Minister or the President in focus, they can actually register that image in. So every shot that's taken, doesn't matter how they're moving or where they are, if people are cutting across them, it's going to hit them on the pitch
bride
like
and
this.
groom.
Bride and groom, exactly. You can set them all up. So this function is a great little function to actually have in the camera to make sure, again, because I'm going to say it a lot of times when we talk photography, to make sure you get the shot. You're not kind of looking saying, oh, I just missed it. Oh, it would have been better if that was on that subject. You can be more specific on it. And again, just to keep things going, this is kind of how it works. So you can see there, it's staying on the subject, not jumping to anybody that cuts across it. Even if that goes on, staying right on them. So every shot that would have been taken there, that's going to be the shot. And it's going to be on the footballer or couple or politician or whoever is doing whatever. There you go. So the evolved tracking algorithms, it's all down to this. So you can see here, tracks precisely even when similar subjects cross each other. So they've thought about that again as well, because we've had it with AF systems in the past. Great, they lock onto your subject, but if something or somebody comes in front, they can jump, because AF is not infallible. And it's not saying it is still infallible, but it's getting so much better, where if you're taking shots, your hit rate is just, your percentage of hit rate that you want is going up and up and up. And this is an invaluable thing to have inside a camera. So tracking with cross subjects as well, crossing subjects, or perhaps body detection. It's a thing that's been put in. So we have eye detection, head detection. Before then, it would just go to full body detection. But now, even depending what's in frame, it'll cover the upper part of the body as well. So it's thinking about all the distance, all the frames that are in there, and how to get the best shot. And of course, avoiding obstacles by estimating head area. So even down to it's thinking ahead, what potentially is going to happen here. Let me work it out so you're ready to get the shot. And there's a new name for all this technology. So of course, we all know dual pixel CMOS AF. I say it a lot. I do a lot of training with a lot of people in the cinema world, as we know, on the AF technology and in the cinema cameras, but this is where this has come from too. It started back in what does it say there? It was at the age of 2013, back with the 70D. I remember the 70D coming out, and when they put that in, first of all, people were blown away. The 70D is a very popular videography camera for people starting out, students and so on. Absolutely. And it was the AF that was really stood out there. Then, of course, we brought out dual pixel CMOS AF II. So that was high speed, high precision, and a wide range of AF functionality was added into it. And of course, to start bringing in the deep learning, now we have dual pixel intelligent AF. So taking away that it's not AF3, but this is intelligent AF. And it's about that the camera is trying to work out what's going to happen, not just what is happening. And that's a big step, again, if you're talking about any sports activity, any high-speed activity that's going on, that the camera's assisting you in recognizing what potentially is going to happen, so I'm ready to get the shot. So that's been put in there. So you can see it's a tracking revolution, subject crossing, and so on and so forth that we've talked about. So they've come into the R5 Mark II and the R1.
Very cool.
Really, really nice. Next things, image quality. So we've already made the comment on the 24.2 and the 45 megapixels. Great image quality from those cameras, but we have things now like in-camera upscaling, which we'll go into in a moment, where you can get a 4 times upscale from the original resolution of the camera. And this is where I'm going to fail down with the numbers. 24.2 multiplied by 4 is, and 45, that kind of thing. But we'll go
I remember
into
it's something ridiculous on this, like 170.
It's going up to 170. I think it's 107. Yeah, it is
Must
170
be 90
megapixels.
or something on this?
It's going into 24. Yeah, it's going up to 96.
96.
96 megapixels. So you're going to get upscaling. Now, upscaling has been tried before in previous cameras in a kind of clunky way. Again, because of the sensor and because of the deep learning algorithms, again, this is something that's basically been processed when you're doing it, is making it quicker and a lot better. I was kind of freaked out from some of the shots I saw when they upscaled and what you could actually see. So you do have that. You've got neutral network noise reduction as well. So that, in a sense, will work with the upscaling. So you will get cleaner images. So if you have a bit of a noisy image coming through, it will clean the image up. Again, from the deep learning process, it's not just trying to saturate things in. It's thinking about what's this image, what noise do I need to look at, and where do I clean it.
That's not happening in real time as you're recording JPEGs or whatever,
you
or
can
recording
go in
video
afterwards.
or anything like that. That's afterwards in camera still.
Correct.
Develop my RAW with these settings.
Exactly. It's not in shot, because you'll still have that shot. You might want that shot, but if you want to upscale or you want to clean it up a bit, you can go in, press the button, go into the menu, say do this, and you'll see it being done in like 15 seconds.
Medi has just confirmed 96 megapixels for the R1 and 180 megapixels for the R5.
So we didn't do our maths right. We should have got 45. Certainly we got it right.
Thank you, Media.
Thank you, Media. So what we've got as well, 8.5 stops of image stabilization. Now that is in camera, because beforehand we used to talk about lens as in the combo, the lens and the in-body combo mix on that way. This is 8.5 stops in body.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So you stick any lens on it, PL mount to a PL
That's
lens
what the pushing provides, effective stabilization all the way through. So this is a big thing. And also,
I'd missed that. That's great.
As we talked, we'll talk about a bit as well. So 8.5. But as we know with older cameras, like even with the R5, if you had wide lenses on there, you get the classic wobbles on the edge.
Yep.
You're going to find here again, because of deep learning and the algorithms and the way it's looking at it, that will be reduced. I'm going to use the word reduce. You never clear anything away, but it will really take that back to make it a usable shot that you'll want to use.
Very cool.
It has detect priority, auto exposure while in AF as well, and precise metering. And we'll look at that into a little bit. So first things first, upscaling. It says it there, satisfies the needs for high resolution shots. So even somebody shooting on a 24 megapixel shot, if they're using it on the red carpet somewhere and have a beautiful shot of stars going into a movie premiere, they'll be able to upscale that if they needed it to, as Media said, a 96 megapixel shot for themselves. So it upscales 4 times the initial resolution in the camera and allows the user to upscale and crop. So you have a lot of flexibility. It's not upscaling it. You can do it in camera crop as well. Deep learning noise reduction then reduces the noise by up to 2 stops. So again, we've talked about it before, it's these things underlying in the camera, not the kind of headline specs, that are a big, big change, that are kind of making these cameras more exciting and more usable in more areas. So the next thing we're going into is this. So this is the high precision white balance and metering. So it's moved up now to, you can kind of see there, I've forgotten the number, Media, you might have to tell me, I've got it here. Oh yes, there it is. So it was 384 zones in previous cameras. This is now up to 6,144 zones. So again, it's saying here, getting the accurate brightness of a subject is difficult. So when subjects' faces look too small, this will have tighter metering around that, so you'll get that exposure better inside it as well.
I mean, that's a fantastic example. One, because it's such a small face, but also, bright white dress.
Exactly.
That's always an exposure, auto exposure challenge, and quite a dark background with that cabinet behind her.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect example of that.
Exactly. And again, both cameras have this.
Yes.
So we're still in both cameras. You can see there's so much crossing over.
In some ways, more important for the R5 because of that high megapixel count. You're going to be wide a bit more often, and it's very popular camera for things like weddings.
It is for wedding and studio and portrait photography and things like that. Yeah. Just having that and getting the shot you really want the first time is going to be key. So going through, this is all about speed now. So of course, what we've got with the R1, as you'd expect, really high frame rates, 40 frames per second in the R1 and 30 frames per second in the R5 Mark II, which is phenomenal speeds with those cameras. Pre-continuous shooting as well, so up to 15 to 20 frames. So 15 in the R5 II, 20 in the R1. Frames are buffered continuously. So that's a situation where you're shooting something or something happens, you pull your camera up and start shooting, and you might have just missed a couple of seconds beforehand. It basically won't happen. You can have that there before you're even shooting. It's captured either 15 or 20 depending on camera, which is really, really nice. Blackout-free viewfinder, always important now for a lot of photographers. So you have a blackout-free free viewfinder. Advanced tracking, of course, the advanced tracking algorithm improves detection accuracy and tracking. Minimal rolling shutter. This is a key thing with this sensor. So again, let's talk about what people were hoping or seeing because other brands have started bringing onto the market. Global shutter was talked about. Global shutters are phenomenal sensors in what they do, but again, they're very good at certain things, and because of that, because of how they're pushed, there's other things underneath that they're not so good at. This is where Canon said we want to make sure that we've given the most well-balanced overall sensor, so that it does a lot. The R1, I've seen shots from it. I can't make the difference from rolling shutter or any from a global shutter to this one. It's very hard to detect. You will literally have to go in and work at it for minutes to say, oh, I can see a tiny little thing going on. So in the real world, you're not going to notice it. The rolling shutter in the R5, as you'd expect, is a little slower because of the megapixels, but still, rolling shutter, very, very straight lines, very, very straight lines. And of course, 1/64,000 shutter speed. You have them there as well. So you've got really, really high speed. So available with the electronic shutter for still photo shooting as well. So speed is in there. So the processor and that sensor is giving all that, which is really exciting. So the other thing that we've done, fine-tuned speed to the action. So depending. So down the bottom, I'm going to start with the R3. You can see there, if you went in, you were able to not change anything. So if you were in high plus, it was 30. In high, it was 15. And in low, it was 3. Now with the Mark II and the R1, you will be able to go in high plus and tweak it to that level. So if you wanted to not want the 40 frames per second and say, I only want 15 frames per second, you can do that. And you can see you've got all the options in there. Even going down to, on the low, being able to go to 1. Because Canon hasn't done that before. So you can actually really change it. So again, that's been added in. Feedback from the industry, people saying it'd be great to have that in there. And Canon have listened and put it in.
Absolutely. I mean, just looking at the R3 down there, very sensible numbers, but perhaps 5 might be slightly better than 3. And, you know, if you want to make that even just a subtle change like that, you can now.
Yeah, options. People like options. So if you give us more options, everybody's a little happier.
Agreed.
Blackout free, simple enough. We don't have to go this too much. We know what blackout free is. You're shooting away, doing the stuff, and you're not having any blackouts just in case something happens. Very important shooting through a viewfinder, as we know.
So the way now that you know that you're taking a photo is the little sort of flash of the frame.
Exactly. You see a white frame,
white border.
basically a little white border telling you that you're shooting, so you don't have to worry about anything. So a simple thing. Don't need to go too depth in that. You can see there's a lot of text in there. We don't need to read through all that text. And then, of course, pre-continuous shooting for stills. So this is important, that we just talked about it. So the R1 20 up to 20 shots and the R5 Mark II 15. I have a little video just to kind of show that. But it's not available when you're using a power source other than the new battery, which we'll talk about at the end. So it's a new function there. But this function, I think, will be a lifesaver, especially for wildlife photographers and sport photographers, because it's just literally... You're shooting, you might just miss something by a couple of seconds. So having a continuous load of buffering going on is going to really, really enhance that.
Basically, any situation where you're holding and waiting for something to happen, and then as soon as it happens, you go. You know, if that is your situation, this is
it's going to be a saver.
This thing alone
that could have the shot in the buffer that you want.
Exactly.
So it's actually doing it. So it's really, really phenomenal. So that's been added inside here as well, which is great. So next thing, critical moments. I think it's just going to bring it up. I love our little PowerPoint slides. So here's the video. So this is the bird. It's just returning it back. So the bird was there, but the bird took off 15 frames beforehand. So you missed the bird on the twig, on the tree. That's the shot you wanted. And it was flying away, but you would now have that shot. So that's what it's showing on that, which is key for wildlife, because you're not in control of what animals do. And if you want to get that shot, which is important, if you can get it easier by having the pre-record, basically, it's better.
Yep.
Now, I suppose this is what a lot of people came here to see. It's great to talk about the video stuff. I love talking about video stuff because, as most people know, that's what I primarily do. But the photo side of both cameras was really exciting there, as you saw.
Massively.
So now, of course, because we talk about hybrid cameras, these cameras, of course, have a phenomenal amount of video functionality. So looking at the key specs, we have it here. 6K 60 Frames per second on the R1, as you'd expect. It's a 24.2 megapixel sensor, so it gives you 6K 60. And on the R5 Mark II, it's an 8K 60 frames per second. Now, there's one thing I'll say off straight away that people will notice. When we brought out the R5, first of all, we kind of said it can go up to 8K 60 with caveats. And it was an 8K 30 camera. There's no caveat. That's the first thing we'll say. 8K 60 with no caveat. The battery that comes with it, it's a new battery, will allow you to shoot with that battery up to 8K 60 raw, which is phenomenal. Dual shooting. So records photos and videos at the same time.
Now, this needs some clarification.
Yes.
The first time I heard this, I was like, whoa, that's just changing everything.
I do have a slide.
It does limit quality, doesn't it?
It does. We'll talk about it on the slide because the information is there. But all I'll say is there's certain times where a photographer / videographer will go out and they'll be told, we want some photos and videos. Yep. Quick. This is all about speed, so we need it as soon as you can get them. If you're just putting something down because you're going to shoot in full HD and get JPEGs, you can still deliver full res JPEGs and full HD video at the same time. No blackout.
Which for some markets
for some areas is incredible. And putting that
journalism.
in there, that's the place where you find that they'll say, we need something quick, we need, because on socials or it's going online, they don't need to send raw straight through. JPEG will do the job, and they have a full HD video that will do it. Custom pictures, of course, which we all know, we'll go into it because that's been advanced and enhanced. 4-channel 24-bit audio recording, fantastic. But I'm sure a lot of people have already seen it here. Canon Log 2 and HLG. I'll get into it a bit in the moment, next slide. This is what is exciting me about these sensors. Beforehand with the R5, so the 45 megapixel in the R5, even with the R3 with its 24 megapixel sensor, they were a 14-stop sensor. A lot of people said, oh, it's only got log 3 inside it, I'd love log 2. No use in giving you a log 2 in a camera that has a 14-stop sensor because you're creating digital noise when you push into log 2. You could access it in post-production, as everybody found out and could do, but people wanted to get log 2 for that kind of big workflow. This camera sensor is 16 plus stops of dynamic range. In both
sensors, right?
Both.
Even though they're so different in terms of megapixels.
They're both.
Are Canon saying there's any difference in dynamic range between them?
16
which is
plus
remarkable.
stops of dynamic range. Now, fair enough, if we go in, because we're saying plus, where does the plus go?
I imagine when we
there might be little bits in there, but it's minuscule, and most cameras are talking 16 or 16 plus stops of dynamic range. But having that in a camera like this, and now giving it log 2, just opens up these cameras being able to be dropped into higher end productions as B cameras and matching and all the rest, which a lot of people are looking for. So when I saw that, I kind of big smile on my face. Oh, great stuff. We've got a high dynamic range sensor, and we're putting in log 2, which I had a lot of the people I deal with and interact with were saying we'd love to see. So it's there. And then industry standard file naming. So we'll go into that a bit as well. This is down to codec. So we have new codecs in here. I won't say brand new because there's a tweak on it. In an MPEG-4 wrapper, we have XFAVC-S and HEVC-S. The S basically is what Canon have done. With MPEG-4 numbering, we all know that it goes from 0 and it goes up to 99 and it kind of clocks over. It's very basic. You can't edit it. You can't change it. But here, you have file naming. You can edit the file naming to match with your RAW in a file size that's very small in an MPEG-4 wrapper. So I think that's phenomenal for post-production and great for high-end productions who want to go in and put the clip name, the film name, the roll number, and they can go in and do that in a small bit rate MPEG-4 wrapper, which you've never been able to do before. So again, enhancing that just for workflow is great, I think.
Fantastic. I mean, there's so much here, and there's a whole host of other. In fact, that was what our video at the launch of these was about. Was all the other video specs that have been improved here? Because there's so much. Like, I mean, my favourites off the top of the head are waveform. Yes. Waveform and false colour. I mean, you've had false colour in a couple of things now, but it really deserves to be mentioned every time, I think. No, and we now get waveform.
I know.
You know,
first time.
These are the stills cameras for Canon, and we get waveform, false colour, and 16 stops of dynamic range, which the stills cameras have never met up to the cinema cameras in terms of dynamic range. these could be the first ones that do.
I think so. In one sense, when you think about those features being put in, as you said, the waveform. When I saw that and I went, we got it on the EOS UI. We actually got it on it because they kept on saying to us, oh, you can't put it on an EOS UI. Yeah. They were able to do it and got there to it. Like, of course, they're going to work on it. So the Cinema EOS team and the EOS team are having more meetings together and communication together. So you're getting a lot more crossover. More meetings together, because they are different areas of the business, even within Canon. And that's why you have two user interfaces differently. Yep. So you've got all that. That's fantastic. Like, I'm talking a lot here with the headline, but and you can see the smile on my face. This is just a joy to talk about.
I mean, obviously these are hybrid cameras, but the core element of both of our jobs, we're primarily talking about video. So there's a lot here to get excited on the video.
So again, just put it up there so people can see. I know there's a lot of text on the bottom, but you've got 6K 60, 4K 120 with audio in both cameras, 8K of course with the R5 Mark II. Variety of shooting assist functions. You've already talked about it with the waveform and the false color being brought in. Editing and grading, of course, these shoot in RAW files. They have now got picture profiles of log 2 in there, and of course 709. HDR movie is in there as well. Color sampling, bit depth, codec name change as well. So you're not dealing with the all-I and IPB terminology that was always in EOS.
Yes.
They've actually put it over to it's all-I and long GOP and intra. So that terminology is in the cameras, which I think is quite important because you don't want to be doing that. And of course, go on.
Of course, the most exciting feature on the entire camera. Forget about all the rest of it.
Who cares?
Who cares about any of it? It has a full-size HDMI. Thank you, Canon. Exactly. Finally.
I know. So that is a big move. And when you bring out a camera like the previous models, so the R5, the R6, all those cameras that do have the micro HDMI.
And of course it is on both cameras.
It is on both cameras. Yeah. Canon, we're looking at that and saying with these small cameras, small connections would be of benefit.
Yes.
But we know in the real world that's not the way it went. So Canon did listen. They haven't stuck with it. You can't change that in current models. So if you bring out a camera that's been designed, you can't switch a micro to a full size. But you have full size HDMI on these cameras now as well. And you can see the way we've talked about it here: shooting, editing and grading, and then delivery with the new codecs, wired or wireless delivery functions as well, and all the supports in there. And on the bottom, of course, we can't forget these cameras will work with the Canon VR system as well. So the dual
sort of always added as an afterthought, but I mean, it is. I know VR is still very, very small.
It's evolving.
You know, in terms of the amount of our customers that are doing it, it's very, very small. It's certainly not worth spending too long talking about, but I think it is worth pointing out that you guys are really sort of leading the way in terms of the camera manufacturers in ways that you can easily develop. You know, you're able to do it with any camera system with full-blown rigs where you're putting 8 cameras together and all this kind of stuff. But in terms of making actually practical for the average sort of video creator, you guys are absolutely leading the way there. Yeah.
No, it is great. It is great. So the camera ticks lots of boxes, different types of productions, different ways of using it, stills, hybrid, and for the videographers that are out there. So this is just, I don't want to keep on going with slides. I'm looking at them.
Yeah, with the question, Medi's doing a great job of keeping the questions at bay. But
you want to throw a question on, and you should do.
Through some of these.
Because you know me, Carl, I'll just keep on talking. But on this one, this is just talking about, it was all-I and IPB in previous cameras, now with the R5 II and the R1, intraframe and long GOP, and then the quality HQ, ST and Light for your RAWs as well. So it's a lot easier to go and navigate around and work with.
There's so much here I love. I love that H.265 and HEVC codecs are being given sort of the pride of place and taken seriously, because you know, my entire workflow here for our ProAV videos is now H.265, and it's just fantastic. I haven't looked back. So much smaller file sizes, so much more practical to work with. I love that you can get H.265 in both intra and long GOP. I love that you get different file size options in intra as well, so you can go from ridiculously high file sizes down to really small and manageable. And of course, having RAW in cameras like this is always fantastic.
Just so you know, I use you as an example.
Do you?
And ProAV as an example on the HEVEC, because still out there a lot of people, the AVC is still the primarily one, but some people were still kind of wavering on it. And I say, please start looking at HEVC. It's a great codec. Carla ProAV uses it and loves it. That's basically the example I use.
And I don't want to say that it is, you know, what every single person should be using. Of course. Quite obviously, RAW exists for a reason. Intraframe exists for a reason. the main reason to avoid H.265 in the past has always been playback, and with the newer computers, particularly anything with Apple Silicon inside, we're still on M1. We haven't even upgraded to the latest Apple Silicon stuff. We're still on the first generation of it, and it's all flying. And so that main drawback has gone, and it is so practical for anything where you're worried about file sizes. Yeah,
file sizes and quick workflow. It's a great codec to use, which a lot of people want to work in. So yes. This is
this is what you've been talking about
exactly.
with the
So, as you said, this the first EOS camera to do this, to allow uninterrupted video when stills are being taken. So in the past, you've been able to do something like this. Video's running, you want to take a shot, you'd go click, but in the video, you would get a gap. You would have that missing clip, basically, or clips, depending on what you were doing. With this one, it's going to record onto the same card at the same time. You're going to be able to video along, something very important, in HD, because there's got to be caveats because of processing power and also loading onto a card, and in a JPEG. But the JPEGs are in the full-size JPEG. They're not a reduced size or anything like that. So you will be able to take that the video, get those shots. Your video is going to be clean, able to send off, and you will have proper JPEGs to also deliver for quick turnaround content. So yeah, like anything, it'd be great to see this. I can do it in RAW on both. I can do RAW video and get RAW pictures. There's no media that could manage that. And the processing power. At some stage in the future, I'm sure we'll get there. But this, at the moment, ticks it for what the cameras and cards can manage.
I mean, again, it's the right pick of example here on the slide. This is what it's for. You're doing the Prime Minister speaking and getting a few shots. And quality-wise, it's nothing that you couldn't do by putting the video in, taking screenshots out of the video and sending it. But it's just about speed.
It's about speed. This is what this is all about. And on the R1, this is especially very important because that's where these cameras are being used. And you have the agency screaming, "We want the content," and you need to get it over there ASAP.
Right. Shall we pause a little bit and just go through some of these questions?
Sure.
We've had a lot of chat here, and I think Medio has been clarifying some bits about oversampling.
Yes.
There seems to be a bit of confusion going around about the 4K fine modes and the oversampling, what frame rates each camera can do up to, whether they can do 4K 60p or not. And from what people are saying, it seems like Canon, the different sort of regions of Canon are saying slightly different things on their site, which I think Mehdi is going to feed back and try and get cleared up. I did just have a little flick through on the R5 Mark II, and in 4K fine mode, you can't enable 50p.
50p,
so
yeah.
It locks it to 25p.
25, yeah.
But I think Media was saying that is different in the R.
It will be because megapixels again. It's going to be resolutions. So when you're talking about the oversampling, like we talked about the oversampling up to 30 frames per second.
Yes.
When you go to 4K 120 and don't know if it came up in there, you can go to full HD 240 with these as well. That's not oversampled. That's just, there's no media again able to have the bit rate.
And I can get up to 1560p in 4K fine and 4K DCI fine as well in the R1. I've just turned it on here.
Yeah. When it's coming down to oversampling and frame rates and so on and so forth, we've talked about this before, and I have lots of conversations with different people. It's not always that the camera can't do it. Sometimes you do want to look at the image quality that's been generated at a higher frame rate, but usually it's down to the media that it's going to is the limitation.
Yes.
So it's just down to the card being able to write high frame rates in high detail and get onto the card. So as media gets quicker, all that would improve. As in the camera doing it, they're limited. I'm going to say restricted, but they're limited to what the camera can do down to the media that it's recording to.
And some interesting caveats I'm just discovering now, flicking through here at the same time. It looks like the R1 can't do 6K in anything but RAW.
That's right.
So it can do, whereas this one, the R5, can do 8K in its HEVC mode. Also looks like the HEVC mode on the R1 can't do all eye intra-frame. It can only do long up. From what I can tell flicking through here, you've got to go down to the 4K AVC.
Yes.
So the H.264 modes, which I don't believe was the case on the R5. So I mean,
We were playing with it before with the color sampling, the bit rates, and what resolutions and frame rates they would go to.
So yes, you can. So in 4K you can't go to intraframe, but you can go to long op on this in H.265, but you can in 8K.
Yes.
So 8K you could do either long op or intra, but not.
The way I think they're dealing with that at the moment, because initial launch of a camera, there's probably some reasons that Canon are working on to do that. We've seen it before where they have opened it up via firmware. I'm not confirming that's going to happen, but with the feedback and what's able to be done, let's see what happens in that area, because it's happened before where a camera comes out. Like I use the C70 example, I suppose, as the primary one that Canon can do certain things. When that camera came out, it was a 4K 30p AVC camera, XF AVC camera, and now it's a 4K 60 RAW camera. So enhancements can be done over time. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that.
Talking
hopefully.
Of which, Stuart has left a quick question for you on the C400, so slightly off topic, but would it be possible to record 8K 24p in a firmware update with the C400?
No.
It's not an 8K
It's a 6K sensor, so you can't firmware a sensor to do more than it's set to do. So yeah, no, that's a 6K.
Absolutely. Some good mornings from all around the world, which is fantastic, including Ireland.
Oh,
there
good.
we go.
I was there the last few days. So hopefully it's somebody that I might have spoken to.
George says, what is your personal favourite feature for the R1 and the R5 Mark II? Also, do you have a rough idea of file sizes for stills? Great question, George. Thank you.
Okay, so my favourite feature, my personal favourite features, I was talking about the video functionality with that, the cameras, the codecs that we put inside there now. I think the HEVCS and the AVCS is great for production. I'm really excited and pleased that I can say I've got an 8K 60 camera that will shoot in RAW, and I can state roughly that will shoot up to 30 minutes. So I don't have to say that it's 2.5 minutes like previous cameras, because of the cooling features that have been added into the camera, which we'll talk about. You mightn't have turned the camera over yet. The AF, the autofocus, again, because sometimes you'll still talk to somebody or you're using the camera yourself, and now and again, because AF is not infallible, this is getting close to infallible, where AF before, it just dropped off, or it hunted here and did this in this scenario. I'm finding that it's hard to find the AF failing in this camera from the testing that we've actually done. More for me, like yourself, I'm more R5C, and of course in the world that I work and deal with, that's going to probably be the primary camera. But I just love that they're able to add in the strong video features in a camera like the R1, so press guys can actually deliver and have more options of content to deliver. But I think it's the codec, the AF, and we just that sensor. We said it earlier on, that's
16 stops of dynamic range.
16 stops of dynamic range in a sensor,
and with the exposure tools that you need to actually expose that properly and get the best quality.
Low rolling shutter. I think it's what I'm going to say, George, just to go back, because you know me, I ramble. The sensor is the thing that's in here. That sensor is the most rounded sensor for doing what anybody wants to do that I think Canon have delivered at the moment.
And rough file sizes for stills, he said.
File sizes
will be very similar to the previous R5 and the R3.
To be honest, the megapixels is what dictates the file sizes. I'm hoping Media will sit there and type that in, because I'll be honest, off the top of my head, I can't think of that. You all have to remember, stills I'm good at, but I'm more video, so I don't know my numbers on that, embarrassingly.
Absolutely. A few questions we've already answered, like the video mode and stills mode at the same time. So that reduced resolution. Yes, it's 1080p 60. 1080p 60, right? Not 1080p 25.
Yeah.
Lots of this chat about backwards and forwards about oversampling. Is XC protocol supported? And no, it's not on these. That's a shame. It would love.
Quick reason why, just so you know, and not to say in the future it won't happen. At the moment with the EOS UI, it's not designed to take in the protocol. So the Cinema EOS UI, and of course our PTZs, which don't have a UI, they're able to be in there. So currently, that's the feedback from Canon. It just says at the moment with EOS UI cannot take XC protocol. I know the R5C doesn't have it as well, so there's something else in there. But in this configuration, it's not available as of yet. But fingers crossed, let's just see what happens. It's a hardware thing. It's not going to be a firmware upgradable thing in these things. But let's see as that side of the camera system evolves.
Very cool. Thomas Love says, is the C RAW 12-bit or 14-bit? And is there an option to get 24 megapixel RAW file on the R5 without cropping? as we were able to do on the DSLR bodies. So
first
down
question.
resolution without cropping in.
Okay, so
Cinema Raw 12-bit.
Cinema Raw would be 12-bit. That's what it is. It's 12-bit. We don't have 14-bit on yet. These are 12-bit cameras. On the downsampling, on the resolution, shameful to say, I'm not exactly sure on that. You might have to go in.
I can think. So you have large, medium.
Yes, we have like
small.
what we call C-RAW. I'm just trying to remember the file size. This is going to be down to my numbering that I'm going to fail on the actual physical number.
So it doesn't look like you've got RAW and C-RAW, both of which are 45 megapixels. Just one is more compressed than the other.
Yes.
Doesn't look. So you can crop into the sensor.
Of course you can crop into the sensor, because RAW you're using the native part of the sensor. So I'm going to say that you probably can't, because a lot of people ask the question, even in the film world with RAW, can you deliver a lower resolution in RAW? And you usually can't, because you're using the full aspect of the sensor part that you're shooting with. So it'll be the same there.
So yes in JPEG, no in RAW.
Yes.
More chat about XE protocol, which is great. What's the highest quality that the full-size HDMI can output? All I found is clean HDMI out. It's the full sensor resolution,
It is
right?
the full sensor resolution.
6K, 8K.
So exactly. I know if you're using a Ninja out, you're actually able to shoot ProRes RAW, so 8K, 30. It's not going to be 60, and that's not the Canon. I think that's just a limitation between, if you want to say the Atomos, the camera, it's 30. It's not 60.
A clarification from Media on the bit depth. She said for stills, it's 14-bit RAWs, even when shooting at 30 and 40 frames a second.
But in Cinema Raw, it's 12.
Yes. Does pre-recording work with the 4K 120 as well as the 2K 240?
So I think we'll be coming up to that. There is a 3 to 5 second preset in video.
Very cool.
And in stills, it's RAW. Of course, it does it in all. Sure. It's not only for JPEG.
Looking forward to CineD test to confirm and refute the 16 stops of dynamic range claim.
Can I answer that a little bit? Can I answer that? Because when there's no set test for dynamic range.
No.
So manufacturers have a particular test they do, and that's how they hit their number. Yep. Other dealers and brands like CineD, they all have their own test.
Your test won't be the same as Panasonic's and Sony's and all the rest of them.
So there's no what's called an ISO test for dynamic range. So you can trust from the manufacturer to a point, because that's the test that they've set and that it's read out on. And then somebody else will push it a bit harder and say, no, in our test it won't go that low. But it'd be interesting to see. But I know CineD do a really weird one, so yeah. Yeah,
and from my opinion, it almost doesn't matter as long as you're comparing numbers from the same place.
Yes, so that's the thing.
If you're just looking at Canon cameras in a bubble, then you can treat Canon's numbers as to which one has more dynamic range than the rest of them. Great. If you were wanting to compare a Canon camera to a Sony camera to an Arri camera to a Blackmagic camera, whatever, then you've got to go to somewhere completely independently from the manufacturer, from any of the manufacturers.
Exactly, you do.
Which is why it's nice that CineD does those tests.
No, it is really good that they do it. But it's just understanding where brands come with it. They have a test.
Yes.
I want an ISO test. I've said it a few times. It's just so nice that there's one standard test like there is for everything else. The thing is, if you do a standard ISO test, like with batteries, it's always tiny. Yep. It's always the worst case scenario because of the settings that you're supposed to set things on. Yep. Like a battery that we claim that the battery in the R5 will do 360 shots. It'll do close to 2,000 really, but in the test it's set at, that's what it's set for.
Absolutely.
Anyhow, that's just a side note.
George has said, love that they both have the multifunction hot shoe. That's really helpful for audio. Yep. Does that mean 4-channel? Also, is 32-bit float available in these cameras? So
via Smart Shoe, it's not 4-channel. It's 2-channel because like you have the Tascam on there. It's 2 channels coming in. There's 4-channel in the camera, of course, because you have Scratch and 3.5 and the 2 XLR, so you can run 4-channel that way. But via the Smart Shoe, it is 2-channel. Cool. Up to 2-channel. Assuming V90, and there's no 32-bit float on these, is there? No. George says, assuming V90 cards are required for more heavy codecs to be available, yes, anything that is realistically above
150 megabits a second,
Yes.
you're going to want to be on V90.
Yeah,
really.
V90s. To be honest, I just say to people straight away, go V90.
Yeah.
I've had people who put in V60s, V30s, and then call me up saying, Barry, the camera won't do. And I'm saying, you're using the wrong card. It's data.
Or just go to the CF Express card, because even the cheaper CF Express
exactly.
cards, like the Angelbird SEs and the equivalents to those, can do pretty much everything these cameras
You
can
literally get most of the stuff out of it. But yeah.
and actually cheaper than the same file size, same storage size on SD.
Exactly.
So it's
That's
really
very
not
true. The cards are coming down and getting more flexible to purchase and buy now.
Right, we'll get back to the slides in a second. Just
No stress.
quickly
Great.
flicking through. George says, interesting you said about the 30-minute limitation of recording. Does that mean it can be used in a similar way to the R5 Mark I by using external power and external recording to bypass the recording limitations?
So it's not recording limitations. Sorry if that might be in just the way I explained it. The camera has no 29-minute, 59-second recording limitation, as we've started with the R6 II and the R3 and all those cameras. So you have no limitations in that regards. It was down to, when I used the word up to, it's down to with the RAW codec, the camera has safeguards inside it, is the best way of saying it, especially with RAW, that you can still potentially have overheating as you can with any camera that has a big dump rate. And at the moment, Canon are quoting it's up to 30 minutes with the RAW.
Cool. And Media's just said the exact same thing. There we go. You're in tune.
We're in tune. Good.
And Mr. Zen with the controversial questions, is the R5C line dead now that the R5 Mark II has been released?
No. So the R5C, still a phenomenal camera, completely different type of interfaces we know with that camera. It's got two UIs in it. It's got the Cinema EOS UI and the EOS UI inside it. It has a built-in vent and fan, so you still have continuous runtime for all codecs in there. So it runs like a cinema camera. As we said at the start, to a point, with the R5 Mark II, it has fantastic video functions. It's in an EOS UI. They've added extra things in, like especially the exposure tools and the waveform monitors and the false colors and so on. But the Cinema EOS is still the trusted professional cinema type camera. It's the best way of saying it, and doing that. So will they do anything with the R5C in the future? Let's wait and see. I have no idea. We are where we are at the moment. We can see the enhancements. It's an exciting time. I'm in a great place in my job at the moment, talking about all these things because
you're enjoying your job.
Well, I'm loving it at the moment because a lot of the people I've been speaking to about at the moment, they're saying they're trying to find things. You know, people say, it doesn't do this or doesn't have that, and especially I told you I was in Dublin the last few days, and people was just saying there's a lot of things hard to find that you're not doing at the moment, so it's good in that regard.
Absolutely. And Stuart's just said as well, will there be an RC Mark II? Who knows?
Who knows? It's down to that camera is now 2.5 years old, coming to 3 years old, so it's kind of midway through its life. It's just over halfway. Remember that I talked about Canon's life cycles? So
now that they do both exist, what do you think are going to be the main reasons that people would end up picking the R5C still over the R5 Mark II?
So the tools in the UI, continuous recording in everything, as in it's a proper video cinema camera.
No overheating.
No overheating. That's where it would go down to. So if you're on a production and they said we need cameras and you don't want to have a camera that's sitting there, sorry, got to switch it off for a few minutes because we're doing stuff. That potentially could happen with any camera that's in the R5, or the R system design. The R5C is designed to pass all that and work in that environment longer, better and continuous. That's the best way of saying it. But the R5 II, I can see it being a phenomenal B cam. You know, it's not a long run camera. I wouldn't take this to a conference, sit at the back and then walk away for 5 hours. It's not designed for that. The R5C is that kind of thing.
That makes a lot of sense. Shall we?
Yeah, I'll quickly go through. Yes, we'll go through. So this is just a pre-recording. You asked the question on video, so it was the next slide. So you can actually select 5 or 3 seconds. So you can do that in video as well. So we have it in the burst mode in photography. You have start movie recording before the action happens and never miss the moment. So you have that function inside. I know a lot of people want to be able to get that.
Do any other Canon cameras do that?
I'm going to say yes with a smirk on my face because I'm trying to remember, but I think the Cinema EOS line, Cinema EOS has pre-record. The 400 does. Yeah, it has pre-record. You go into the function that has pre-record.
Nice.
So yes, but I'm saying it with a wry smile because on my EOS side I'm trying to think about it, but I'm sure Media will jump in there and save me on that question. Design, simple enough. I'm just going to go through it. Magnesium alloy body, dust and water resistant construction. These things are built to be used and taken into the harshest environments that are out there, as Canon EOS cameras have always been designed to do. So it's great on that end. To be honest, all I'm going to do here, there's only a few slides. This is just defining the cameras separately a little bit. So back to photography. Cross type AF.
Right, this I've seen. This is a massive thing, and I've seen so much. I don't want to say misinformation, but maybe perhaps misunderstanding online.
It's a new technology, so people are thinking about, cross-type AF has been out before.
I know.
Literally on a diode, they have been able to split horizontals and verticals within the diode in 4 ways. So each diode can actually see horizontals and laterals in a better way.
And I've seen some videos that have implied that means that this way you've always been able to get good focus, but then you turn it this way and the autofocus is worse, and it's
nothing to do. It's nothing to do with that. So the R1 has this, the R5 doesn't have this, and this is down to, as you said, the sports shots and the shots that camera, that professional camera, that tool for professional photographers is designed to do, is to get every single shot as quick and as best as it can. And the cross type AF in here is an enhancement where you will not miss those shots, even if you're shooting through people, through trees and whatever else. The focus is just looking for other things, and
it's about the technology for how the autofocus system specifically, nothing to do with the rest of the camera, is understanding the image that is presented in front of it.
It's in that AF area that it's designed to do. 40 frames per second, simple enough, we know what that is. 24.2 megapixels. The one thing I will say about the megapixels, because people talk about it, we talked about it earlier on, this has my terminology now, a 16... I was saying bit before, thinking video side, but a 16-part low pass filter. The R3 is 4.
Wow,
so this one here, for that, the image enhancement from 16 part low pass filter on there is just going to make that 24.2 megapixel shot look so much better. So I've seen the images from an R3 and I've seen the images from this, and you wouldn't think this is coming from a 24.2. So they're conscious of keeping the resolution that the professionals need because of the way they use the camera. But of course, everybody wants to see an improvement in image quality, and that's what which on
the video side of things, people are less used to talking about this on the still side as we are on the video side, because as we all know, 1080p video is not created equal across every camera, you know, and different recording modes. You can get 1080p video that looks incredibly sharp and detailed, and you can get 1080p video that looks really, really soft. And it's the same thing on stills. 24 megapixels, 124 megapixels is not as sharp as the other 24 megapixels.
I've been doing it for years. Even when I did work more on the photo side, I used to say to people, the megapixels is around the 3rd or 4th most important thing that we're talking about here. It's there, and of course it's not to discount it in any way, but with everything else that the sensors are doing, megapixels, the higher megapixels are there for the detail, and also, yes, we can crop in, so the flexibility of doing that. But the initial shot is the important thing, and that's why I always said 3rd or 4th important thing. We'll get to megapixels in a moment, and you can even see here, it's not the big, that's the big statement, even though I talk about it. 6K60, we've talked about that already, so don't need to over elaborate again. 2.5T Ethernet, so send results back reliably to the client. So that's all about getting that image sent straight off, so it's the highest frame out there. And of course, a lot of people have picked up on this. It's a 9.44 million EVF,
and you notice it immediately putting your eye to this thing. It's by far the best viewfinder Canon
best
I've ever made.
that we've actually ever made ourselves. So that's in there as well. So that's kind of the big shouts on that.
So while we're on the R1 slide, what would you say to customers that are now confused between this and the R3? You know, they're both sort of 1D shape cameras. They're both 24 megapixels. We've just discussed sharpness a little bit. What makes this the flagship? What are the differences?
I suppose putting it in the real world, not talking about the spec, because I don't need to go through all the spec. We've been talking about that a little bit. What I've just covered about the 16 pass filter over 4. This is literally all about every single shot, your hit rate. The important thing to somebody who's shooting is, will I get the shots I want? Will it not fail? Will I not miss the shot and say to you, damn, that one shot has lost me money this week. Not saying the R3 will do that, but this one will.
Well, the R3 was already better
it was
than
really good.
most other Canon cameras out
Exactly.
there. In fact, every other Canon camera out there, and now this one is better again.
In a sense, we're trying to get to the percentage where you're saying hit rate, the closest you can get to 100%. Every shot you've taken is at 100%, close to 100%. That's what photographers want with this.
Yep.
That's going to get you closer to that 100% than the R3 will.
And then while it's getting you there, the actual images are going to look better as well.
Exactly.
More dynamic range in
More
the
dynamic
sensor,
range in it,
that
exactly.
Sharpness
All those things.
improvements.
That sensor, we'll go back to it, is a huge leap in performance from the R3.
Yep.
So the image quality, the AF, the dynamic range, the rolling shutter, because on the R3 it is very low rolling shutter. Just so you know, Canon be talking about it, the R3 and the R5 Mark II have similar rolling shutter. So there's still a tiny bit there, but it's really good. That now, it's close, as close to global as you can get, but not taking away all the kind of lower things that global can take away.
Very cool. Very cool.
Hope that's okay.
Yeah.
Just keep on going through because this will go into stuff. We've already talked about it. So we all know it's a full frame, a stacked back illuminated sensor. So this
we probably haven't actually said that, but both are obviously
both
full
of them
frame.
are stacked back illuminated sensors. So these are brand new, from ground up design sensors. Nothing's that's been rehashed, rehoused, reconfigured, whatever that might be, because I know a lot of people think that. This is a brand new technology. And what I've already talked about, the 16 stops, the rolling shutter shows it. You can't tweak that. You have to design that from scratch. The first sensor to do that. The other things that might be in here, we already know this. So again, 4K 120, 4K 60 oversample, 2K in full HD, up to 240 frames per second. And then in full range of recording options. Again, we've already covered a lot of this off, but this is what's in here, so people can kind of get a sense of what it will actually offer.
And a nice little asterisk on that one is that the high frame rate modes are now recorded with audio.
Yes, with audio. Yeah, exactly. So you can get your WAV file in there as well. The R1 takes two CF Express Type B cards. So the R3 takes CF Express Type B and SD, as everybody knows. So you'd expect that within this. And just to kind of go through it, what conscious of time for you is, we go on to the R5 Mark II. This one is 30 frames per second, as you'd expect, just a little drop because of the resolution. 45 megapixels, newly developed full frame back illuminated stack sensor. Going to keep on saying that. 8K RAW up to 60 frames per second. VR playback. New accessories. You've got one of the accessories here.
Yeah.
We will come to it in a slide, but I'll bring it up. So this, I brought the air vent, the cooling grip, I suppose, as people are going to call it. So the way this will kind of work, that's just a little video. I'll let that play in the background, actually. So with this being an 8K RAW camera, this won't have a huge effect on the RAW recording. So I'm still going to say that it's still going to give the 8K 60 in RAW up to around 30 minutes. You might get a little bit of a difference, but the key thing when you put this on, if you're shooting the 8K in the HEVEC, you'll get up to 2 hours with that fan on. So it's an assist. So actually, before you put that on, if you don't mind, turn the camera around, because underneath, have you seen there's a little slot? You see that little like vent that's on it there already?
Yes.
So
Okay,
that's part of
is new.
That's the initial design to dissipate heat from the camera. So Canon have put that in. So it's a physical thing. So it's not trying to throw it out anywhere else. Canon have put that in there. And then, of course, when you put this on...
And then that matches one in there. So this is actually blowing the air.
It's blowing the air. That's exactly
we've seen a lot of third-party accessories kit market which sort of
sit
in this area and try and pull heat away from this hard plate here. Realistically, that they can only achieve so much, so that's really not going to help very much.
They weren't very successful or popular, to be honest, those kind of things. But this is designed
actually
by
blows
Canon.
air into the camera.
It's bringing it in. And in the HEVEC codecs, the 8K codecs, if you're shooting
this
up
is
that...
a bit clumsy, I haven't done this before.
It's okay, you take your time. Take your time, you're okay. This will really assist in giving you a longer run time.
Yes.
So getting up to 2 hours.
Yes.
Of 8K. So I'm using the high numbers here. This is going to really improve that. And that's what it's been designed for. So again, when we push back, in a sense, with the R5C that people are going to compare this with, you can see you have to add an attachment to this because it's still a stills first camera versus a video first camera. Well, the R5C is a video first camera that does stills. So yeah. And it has an Ethernet out on it as well.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So that's also important to note, is that not there's no other functionality on this, right? There's no vertical
because it's
grip.
a cooling one. The whole thing's been designed for all that.
All of a sudden, I've got much stronger air coming out the
Well,
side
it's
of
probably
it.
because the camera's been
There we
on.
go.
It's going to switch it on. You can go in like Cinema EOS cameras and switch that on, put it in auto,
Yeah.
and when you're recording, it won't be on. The same way as it would work with a Cinema EOS camera.
Yeah. Fantastic.
But that's
And
basically
I
what
don't have a card
we've
in, so I
made
can't
for
see if
that.
that shuts off during recording. But
We'll see.
yeah, fantastic.
So again, just the EOS R5 Mark II, full range of recording options that are in there. We've already gone through all that. And of course, we can crop into Super 35 mode in here as well, APC image as well.
There are so many record modes, particularly in the R5 Mark
Yes.
II. There's just so many. It's almost overwhelming how many there are.
Well, this is the way the industry is going and the technology is bringing us. And when you're talking about now in the video world, like I've been talking about this a lot, it's staggering to think that price point wise, like won't be talking too much in price point here, people kind of roughly know what they are, but for cameras under that 10k for videographers, serious cameras, you wouldn't have got spec like this in a camera 5-6 years ago, and if you did, you would have been paying tens of thousands for it. Now you're getting it into cameras that are well priced, well spec'd, and do so much. So the options for videographers and filmmakers and photographers to enhance their workflow and just add more in is just evolving all the time. It's really exciting. You know, it's great. I love it for that reason.
Certainly is.
And I should be coming to the end in a second. Of course, I've already said it, but yeah, VR footage in format with this, with the dual fisheye lens, works with it straight away. And of course, the R5 Mark II is one CF Express and one SD card slot, and it shows you there what you can actually get out of it. So you can see we can get a 4K 60 MPEG-4 on the SD, 2K proxy, and still photos.
And should we talk about this new battery?
Yes, the LP6P. Yeah, it's got a weird number.
LPE6P.
LPE6P. So this battery is what allows this camera. So Canon redesigned it. It's no higher ampage or anything like that, but the way the communication with the battery works with the camera, we're able to get the 8K60 without external power on this camera. Yeah. So that's what they've done there, which I think is phenomenal. So they haven't increased the ampage. It's the same size. It can be used in older cameras. So of course, it won't give any benefit from it because of what it does. It's only going to work there because it's very much communication. But you can stick it into your R5 and it will still give you what the R5 does. If you put in an LPE6NH battery, so what's in the R5, all that will happen is you won't get the AK60, but you'll get all the other functionality the way it already ran. So
you mentioned something earlier that you wouldn't get. Pre-record.
Oh, pre-record, yes, pre-roll, that's right as well. That one does that as well because of the buffering, the way it does. So it's very much the communication and technology of the batteries and the way it communicates and works with the camera that does that. And we should be coming to the very end of my slides. I'm sure people are pleased. There it is. We've already talked about it. So new accessories. I'll just bring
And there's two other grips as well. Regular battery grip with Ethernet.
Yeah, so battery grip, vertical shooting, battery grip with Ethernet with the 2.5G base on vertical shooting, and the cooling fan. And then the new battery, as you say.
Yes. So the R1 has an Ethernet on the body.
Yeah.
The R5 doesn't, but you can add it with either that shooting grip with Ethernet
with
or
Ethernet,
this
which is the second one,
cooling grip, funnily enough.
Exactly. Yeah, they put it in there as well. So they're the three grips that they're going to come out with on this. Cool. And that's it. Look at that. I got through my slides.
Let's see if there's any questions.
People too much?
Definitely not. No, definitely not. Can see a nice question from George. Carl, what does the grip feel like on both cameras? Is it similar to the R5, C70, or better?
I'll let you answer that.
I mean, I haven't compared them side by side. To me, this feels identical to the original R5, and this feels identical to the R3.
Exactly.
Really?
They are a little deeper, and if you look at the body in front, have you noticed the kind of style of gripping that's all the way around that? So this is designed because of where it's going to be used. The actual outer layer has actually got more grip feel on it. So when it's in hand, you've got less chap
more
of it.
raised.
Yeah, raised, and it's going to feel more comfortable in the hand for long shoots.
And are these sort of slightly sharper and
they are, I think, in style. Again, when they're looking at the ergonomics of it, because these cameras can be held for long periods of time, it's that there's no slippage.
It is very comfortable.
Very comfortable in the hand. So it's going to be, but Canon again will redesign these things from feedback from the photographers in the past on previous models.
Oh, that is a very good but very specific question. Does the new shoe cover work with the R5C and the R3?
I believe they do. because
I've got an R5C
you
down
got an
here.
R5C. I believe they do. So these
I find it
new
really
covers,
hard to take off.
Here, I've got one.
There we go.
Take
Got
this.
it.
Oh, you got that.
Got
one. The key thing with these covers, and I'm sure people already know about it, is they are weather sealed. So that's why they're on there. You have an electronic.
There we go.
Yeah, we'll go
Works.
into it. An electronic device basically on the top there is Smart Shoe, and you don't want to leave that out open to the elements. So putting this on, it has a little lock on it, and you'll see inside it's got a little seal around it, so it actually will protect it. It
protects it from me getting it off.
Click
That's
down.
what
You
it
can
protects
do
it
it.
from.
You can click it. We'll get it off in a second. You have to click down and pull back. It will come off. It will come off. They're
let's do
new.
that
They're
when
just
the
fresh
stream
out.
ends.
They're just out of the box. Fresh out of the box. It's always a little bit tighter fresh out of the box.
Okay, Tomislav says some reviews show that there are 2 levels of noise in video. R1 has 2 levels, one at 800 and the second one at 12,800, and the R5 has the second one at 4,000 ISO. Can you elaborate?
I can't, because in this from our end, and I am going to ask Mehdi to be in the background to clarify, because we had a conversation about it. In our Cinema EOS range and in the new cameras, we have like triple base ISO.
Yes.
And in the R5C, we promoted that it had dual base ISO. In the EOS UI, you don't have access to that. And when we found out, for example, the R5C had dual base ISO, and we said, oh, did the R5 have it? And they kind of said, well, it does, but you won't know.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling it's the same with these. So I want to clarify it a bit more. So apologies, I don't have the exact answer, because it wasn't put on any information that we were initially given. And I think it's something that might be in there, but how it works, you can't go into a menu system and interact with it, because it's not on an EOS UI menu system.
Yep. In theory, without a Canon hat on, you know, it's the same thing. You know, it's just swapping to a different analog circuit. As long as you do a lens cap test and find where those base ISOs are, you can treat it as if it is a dual base ISO. I haven't. This is the first time I've touched them. I haven't done that test yet.
Because these cameras, we're lucky to have these today. As you know, I've only got them for today because they're all going to the Olympics. That's where they're all going at the moment. We've had a test, but I haven't done the push test ourselves. For the guys in the UK who had these cameras.
Fantastic. Anything else? Glenn says, has the R5 Mark II enabled focus bracketing while using speed lights? The old R5 had focus bracketing, but it got disabled when using off-camera speed lights. Hoping the R5 Mark II now has it. I mean, are you going to know that answer to that off the top of your head? I'd be amazed.
I'm not going to answer that, and I'm going to ask that wonderful lady who's in the chat. She'll have the answer, or she'll more like. And I apologise, I don't have the answer, but I haven't tested to check that, so apologies.
I think she's already put it in.
Yeah, she's
with the R5. Flash wasn't possible with electronic shutter. R5 Mark II allows the use of speed lights, even in electronic shutter, which is the shutter mode used with focus bracketing.
There you go.
There we go.
There's your answer. I knew she'd have the answer.
Thank
see?
you.
That's why it's always good to have 2 people on this.
Exactly. Bag Media says, just want to know if the C400 26 megapixel sensor and the R1 24 megapixel sensor, both in C-Log, XF, AVC, all intra, will match in colours and sharpness. It's a very interesting point.
So Canon will always say that if you're in the right colour space and matching colour space, Canon's colour science is similar. So I always use this with just my hands. They're always close. So in post, you have literally nothing to do to actually get them balanced off. So with a Cinema EOS camera, even the C400, and an R1 or an R5 Mark II, you should be able to match them very easily and close. They will be right on the mark in each other once you're in the same custom picture in the color matrix and so on and so forth.
Yep. Fantastic. And I can absolutely second that in terms of user experience. I've found matching so easy on pretty much any, for the last almost 5 years, to be honest. Any Canon camera has sort of played quite well.
We haven't shifted the colours a lot.
I've seen massive difference in sharpness, and so that might be the thing that matches really nicely between the R1 and the C400. We'll have to do a bit of a test there, because you jump between, say, the C70 and the R5C is the current example.
Yes.
There is a big difference in sharpness between the two.
That's an organic type sensor DGO to this, so there is going to be. So you have to think about your shots and scenes.
Yes.
Color-wise, they're fine, but as in the look of that sensor is different. But C400 and both these cameras being both stacked BSI sensors, they're in that same area.
It'll be interesting to see how close they are. Both in the same quoted dynamic range as well. Because the C400 is 16
it's funny
stops.
to say, these are saying 16 plus stops of dynamic range. The C400 we're quoting 16 stops.
Interesting. These could be more.
That's what I'm waiting to see. I haven't even put these. This is all so new, even from our end to testing. So, well, yeah, really excited. But they'll work very well together because Canon cameras always have in the past. I've found very, very few people to say I can't match.
Yes. Couple more questions just snuck in before I was about to sign up. Peter says, do you have pre-roll length on the R1 and R5 Mark II for video? We had a slide on that.
5 and 3 seconds. So
5 seconds on the R1,
3 seconds.
3 seconds on the R5 Mark II.
Yes, correct. Yep. That's it. Thank you.
And Brian says, heard you can use custom LUTs to review images. Can you elaborate on that?
Custom LUTs?
I don't know anything about that, to be quite honest.
So in the Cinema EOS range, we can load custom LUTs. Not being able to do it on EOS cameras before, custom LUTs. So I'm interested where you heard that, and I should know that on the video side. But
well, for the first time, we now have
go in there and tell me.
The custom picture mode rather than picture styles.
Yes, exactly. Now we've changed it to the video terminology.
And inside that custom picture file, you can do a look file. So I think you can add LUTs inside the custom picture menus.
Yeah, you would.
So you can
okay.
LUTs in
there you go. See, I've learned something
go.
today as well. Isn't that fantastic?
So take all this with a pinch of salt, but it looks like you can put LUTs on in camera.
Yeah.
We will clarify.
Oh, we'll clarify it. Again, I just
haven't
jumped on that part, but yes.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, fantastic. And Mehdi says look file option is available with both cameras.
Yeah.
Excellent. And CMV Factory, I will wrap up after this one, says, can I record 8K 60p RAW without a battery grip? If possible, how many minutes can you record? Is it a time limit or is it a fever warning stoppage? Temperature warning?
Temperature warning.
Camera's got a fever. Or is the outage similar to the R5's era?
No. So as we've already said, with this camera, you can shoot with the LPE6P battery. I have to slow down when I say that. P battery. You can shoot 8K 60, as in a length of time. We've said up to 30 minutes. I'm saying up to because depending on environment, situation, and so on, that can be flexible, but you should be able to get up to 30. With the battery doing that, again, I haven't tested, but I think Media might have a sheet, or they're bringing a sheet out with times on it. I would say with AK60, even for me saying 30 would be the max. You know, that would be really pushing it with the ampage battery that is.
Yep. I'm sure a million people will do a lot of tests.
Yes,
over the next couple of months.
They're already being tested out there.
Right. I mean, overall, let's just sum up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like we said at the beginning, this is that next generation for EOS R.
Yeah.
You guys certainly, in terms of the flagship cameras, that will trickle down in terms of tech to the lower cameras. Who do you think the main customer base that is going to gravitate towards each of these two are?
So the EOS R1 is an easy one, really. That is your press and your sports photographers, agency photographers. This is the tool. I'm using that word, not just camera. This is the tool that will make sure that they get the shots, get them back to the agencies, that will get them out to the news agencies and online the quickest. That's what that's designed to do, and that will get that done easily for them. The R5, like the 5 series has always been, is a workhorse. It's a kind of I'm using the word rounded again, but it just offers so much to different genres of photographers. It has the megapixels for studio work. It has the videography functionality for high-end video shooters. It doesn't matter what type of shooting you're doing. If you're a photographer who says, one day I'm in the studio, next day I'm down, I'm doing some surfing photography, bang, you've got a camera that's going to be able to work in those environments. So it's more of a creative tool for enthusiasts and professionals.
Yep. It's kind of everyone else, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is everyone else.
Press, wildlife, sports.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone else.
A bigger camera like this isn't always popular for enthusiasts. They want smaller bodies, and that's why you have an R5 body with the optional grips. The big cameras need to have everything on camera.
Fantastic. Right. I mean, thank you so much for talking us through all of that.
Thank you. I
joining
really
us.
enjoyed it, actually. So it's been a while. I should do more
not
of
too
these, maybe.
scary, right?
Maybe I should do more of these.
You'd be welcome anytime, Barry.
See if Tom will let me.
Have a fight internally.
Exactly. No, I really enjoyed it. So thank you for
it.
having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you very much for coming down. And thank you all for watching. Obviously, it goes without saying, these are both available to pre-order now over at ProAV, and all the accessories that go with them are as well. And if you've got any other questions that perhaps we didn't get time to answer today, or you think of if you're watching this after being live, just leave them down in the comment section. Both us and the team at Canon will be reviewing what's in the comment section, and we'll get an answer for you. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for your time today, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.